Good morning and welcome to the press conference of the film TULAFALE, the Orator in the Orizzonti competition of the 68th Venice International Film Festival. This morning we have as our distinguished guest the producer of the film, Catherine Fitzgerald, and the writer and director of the film, Tusi Tamasese. Of course, as usual, if there are questions from the floor, you are absolutely welcome to raise your hand and ask questions in both English and Italian. There will be simultaneous translation. As a way to start this conference, I would like to begin with Tusi with a very obvious question. This is the first feature film made in the islands of Samoa, and we are all quite curious about this place and the way cinema came to this place, the way you actually managed to pull this first feature from your country. So we are curious to know where you're coming from, what brought you to making films, and what brought you to specifically make The Orator.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the festival for accepting our film, and it's a great honor and a privilege. The film, I sort of grew up in Samoa. It's a small island in the South Pacific, and I guess I was always fascinated by some of my aspects of way of life there. Especially the bond that we have with our beloved, the departed ones, and in Samoa we sort of bury them in front of our houses, in front of the front yard, and to me that was a challenge to death. That it's you cannot separate us, separate the bond, and I guess that's one of the things I was most interested in, as well as the idea of a chief in Samoa. A chief. My idea of a chief is someone who is tall and well built and fearless and got a witty tongue, who is not scared of talking and demanding anything, and just stripping that away and stripping everything away and seeing what's underneath all of that. And I guess that's where the ideas of the Orator came from.
But in terms of your cinematic growth, what was it that brought you to becoming a filmmaker? We don't know much about Samoa. Can you tell us about movie going there? What was your experience growing up with cinema? What are the films you were watching and that maybe influenced you so much to become a filmmaker yourself?
I grew up with I've got heaps of brothers, and they all had different tastes in films. They loved karate films. Another one loved art and foreign films, and the other one loved Hollywood. So I had a lot of, I was exposed to a lot of films, and I guess it's in our culture, because I think Samoa it's oral culture. They tell stories, and I grew up loving stories, and I think that's where my fascination with film came by. But in Samoa, there's no film industry, and I was very fortunate to be in New Zealand, where I studied film, and yeah.
Catherine, how did you meet Tusi, and how did you get involved with him in producing a film in Samoa?
I was introduced to Tusi by a mutual friend, a Samoan playwright, who wanted Tusi to meet people working in the film industry. and the first thing I read that Tusi had written was some short films, and I was extremely impressed by his writing. It was some of the most beautiful writing I'd ever seen. It was unique and poetic, but summed up mood and a new, unique way of looking at the world. And we worked together a little bit, but I challenged Tusi to say, well, it's all very well to write a short film, but have you written a feature yet? So he studied a course, and in that course wrote his first feature film, which is the Orator. And once Tusi graduated from the course with the first draft script, we worked together to turn it into a feature film. Is that right, Tusi?
So your background in terms of film studying is mostly on writing, film writing actually. So what is it that brought you eventually to making a feature as a director? Because it's probably a different approach from actually writing and thinking of having someone else directing your own script. What is it? Is it that it's just by chance because you met Catherine, or have you ever actually thought that you could fashion into images your own writing before?
Yeah. When I started writing, I knew I was the only one that I wanted to direct my film. Yeah, I didn't trust anyone. I had images in my head that I wanted to show, and I wanted to show it in the right way. And I didn't want anybody, not that I just didn't think anyone would see life in the way I saw it.
So exactly in regard to this, the way of presenting life in Samoa in a very specific way, which is the way you only could fashion somehow, are there specific guidelines or specific milestones that you put whenever you were depicting life in your country, the daily life of your people in your film, in terms of what we see, in terms of the places we see, the sounds we hear, the way everyday life is presented? Was there some kind of, intention in the way you are presenting things there?
Yeah, I wanted, because it's our intention in the beginning was make a Samoan film, and the style had to come from the land. It had to come from the earth. We had to see life in Samoa in the way the culture sees it. And the style of the film I sort of looked at aspects of the culture that was different and that could offer a different look in life. And yes, I think so.
Do you think you managed to eventually bring home the result you wanted for this film in terms of depiction of life in Samoa?
Yeah.
Earlier you were saying that Samoan culture is so much based on orality, on telling stories, and so that's perhaps where your creativeness in fashioning stories comes from. But specifically to the Orator, do you think you were influenced by this kind of tradition? Are there elements there that you could reconnect to the kind of stories that Samoan people tell us for ages now? Tell themselves.
Sorry, so...
Do you think that there is an influence in your film coming from that kind of oral tradition that you were mentioning earlier, in terms of the stories, I don't know, the legends that Samoan people pass oneself throughout generations?
Legends. The way of storytelling. Yeah, I think so. I think just the point of view of Samoa is quite different, and I think everyone growing up in Samoa, I think future projects would filmmakers would see life, would depict life in a different way, I think. I hope that answers your question.
So, Catherine, how was it in terms of actual making of the film for you? I mean, to arrange the production of this film in a country where there hadn't been any feature produced before?
It was an exciting challenge to make a film in Samoa, and make a film that was not using Samoa just as a location. It meant that we had to incorporate a Samoan culture in the way we made the film. So we brought together a partnership in the crew of people from Samoa who knew how things should be, and particularly sort of in art department, we needed people who knew what to do from a Samoan point of view, and we needed people from the New Zealand independent industry who knew what to do with limited resources and to work with people who had expertise. So we had generosity on both sides, and people who were adventurous and hardworking. And Samoa is a very respectful society and very connected to the land, as Tusi says, that people are between the heaven and the earth, the relationship between the heaven and the earth and the land and the people and the people and the people is all connected. And so it was about not just seeing that in the way Tusi framed or chose shots, but it was also in the way we made the film. We had to work in a respectful and mutually accepting way.
Something that I guess impresses everyone when seeing the Orator is the quality of the acting of everyone in the cast, and especially of the main protagonist. So I would like to ask you to say, how did you find these people? Is there anyone who is a professional there? And for the non-professionals, what kind of training did they have to go through to become so good? Or were they so good from the very start?
There's only two professional actors in the film. The wife of the main actor and one of the wife of the brother. But all of them were non-actors. And the casting is quite, I think, was a bit of a challenge, because especially with the main actor. Because when I wrote the script, I had one dwarf in mind, and he's in Samoa. He's the sort of an entertainer. He does commercials, and but when I was supposed to shoot a film just to test him off, and then we paid for his ticket, but he never turned up. So we had to look for another main actor, and it was finding a dwarf in Samoa. It's a difficult thing, and but I think it was meant to be like this, because we were very lucky to come across this main actor, and he hadn't had any acting experience, but when my idea of this film was that it had to be, the actors had to come from Samoa, because I knew that the experience of living there, the subtlety and the reaction to everyday life that they're used to is what I was after. And I knew once we had them understand how to find their emotion, the normal experience would kick in, and then it's just it was awesome, because they started off big, like they were very big with their acting, and once they understood the thing, I wanted them to understand that I was after the experience and being a Samoan, and then it all came down, and they all became us, and all the acting was very subtle. which is my aim, is not to offer too much. You know, in Samoa, that's how people are. It's very nice to see someone just sit there and just watch them, and you know that there's a lot that's going on in their heads because their eyes are working and just that silence. And that's, yeah, it's my growing up in Samoa, I saw this a lot. And yeah, I guess.
It's interesting that you're talking about this relationship with your actors and the interaction that you establish throughout not only dialogue but through silence as well. I was told that you are very fond of Japanese films. Do you think that something of this kind of relationship within your dramatic construction comes also from this kind of passion for Japanese films?
Yeah. I love. I'm a big fan of Kurosawa. I see, you know, I love his framing. I think what stands out for me is how he uses wide shot. In Samoa, you know, you cannot capture someone by just themselves. And then, you know, to define a Samoan, you need to capture them with his environment. So, and I grew up watching those horror films, and I saw how he positions people and how he, you know, the space around him and the silence, and I thought that is Samoa. That is how I want Samoa to, you know, to me, that's how Samoa is. That space, that silent conversation between people is, and so yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of Kurosawa because of his style and how he portrays people, his people.
A question for the both of you, because of course Venice is the place where the film is having its world premiere, but hopefully the film will travel further, and most of all, hopefully we hope that the film will soon be screened in Samoa and New Zealand. What kind of reaction do you expect from the audiences there, especially in relation to this issue that you so much strive for, depicting life in Samoa and Samoan people as they are? Do you think people there will recognize themselves as in a mirror, or do you expect them to maybe be critical? I don't know. I mean, what is your expectation from your own country fellow men to respond to the film?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think Samoans are very, like we're critical of ourselves, and portraying us to the world, like this film does, is it's a very I think Samoans would love to see themselves on screen, just to hear their dialogue, just to hear their voices, and see their environment, and you know, we are not what do you say, all perfect, and those flaws is might bring up some criticism, but it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
What can you say about the idea of bringing this depiction of life of Samoa outside of Samoa? Apart from here in Venice, what do you think could be the international response to a film like this?
For me, one of the most interesting first responses that we've had from people who've seen, and very few people have seen it through the process of making the film, but many New Zealanders, even Samoan-born New Zealanders, find out that they thought they knew about Samoa, but they didn't, that in New Zealand, almost as many Samoan people live in New Zealand as live in Samoa. And so most New Zealanders will know a Samoan or have a Samoan who they work with or in the family, but actually and Auckland especially prides itself on being the biggest Polynesian city in the world. But I think that many New Zealanders know very little about our relationship with Samoa. They know Samoan people in New Zealand, but this will give new insight into New Zealanders about themselves, actually. And I think the same will happen in Australia. There's a lot of people in Australia, and when you look on the Facebook page, it has really impressed me how many Samoans from around the world, Samoans are everywhere around the world, and obviously integrated into whatever business. So the Samoans in Italy, Samoans in America, Samoans in Alaska, Samoans in Denmark, obviously integrated into the countries they live in, but also proud and connected to their homelands. And I think it will be very interesting because it's a unique world. In many ways, you know, it's a tropical island, but it is different, and the style and the culture, I think, is different from what people have seen already. I hope they enjoy it.
Would you say it's an outsider? How would it be different? Could you articulate that?
Well, I guess our perception of tropical islands is often driven by tourism and a hotel where you lie on the beach and go swimming and enjoy the sunshine and a relaxing way of life and some nice food. But in fact, there's a new culture to discover, a new way of, as I was saying before, a new way of seeing the world, a culture which is based on respect for one another, there's respect, there's love, forgiveness. It's just encompassed in the film are many principles about very fundamental human values that I think that in a modern Western world we forget a bit. We're very selfish and forget that we need one another, and that what we need in a material sense is actually quite little. But what's most important is respect and love for one another. So I feel like the film has a way of reminding us of important values.
Unfortunately, our time is up, so I want to thank Tusi and Catherine for this wonderful talk, and thank you as well for staying here for this press conference.